was in the wrong direction. I wouldn't have traveled south. But you can never recognize a dream until you pick the wrong ones out. But where's my whiskey voice?
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike, designer and creator of the Songwriter's Planner. Welcome to my podcast. I really appreciate you guys coming down here and checking it out. I've been having a lot of fun doing these podcasts and interviewing people and talking to folks about what they get out of it, so I really appreciate that. Very excited about today's episode. I have solo acoustic guitar, singer-songwriter, musician Joseph Miller on the show today. He is a artist from the New Jersey area. Very busy out there, does a lot of shows. He just put out, it has an album called Songs of Travel for The Vagabond. We're going to talk about that today. He also has a bunch of accomplishments, was the 2012 top male vocalist, according to the Jersey Acoustic Music Awards. He's the 2017 nominee for the No Depression Singer-Songwriter Award, which is pretty cool. We're going to get into all of that, pick his brain about what it's like to be a solo acoustic artist out there, and hopefully you folks will get a lot of value out of this podcast. I know I'm going to have a great time talking to him. He is also a proud owner of the Songwriter's Planner, which is very cool. I'm going to talk to him about that as well. So thanks again for swinging by the podcast. We're going to jump into it right now. Peace. Okay. All right, man. We're ready to go over here. Just wanted to, like I just said, man, I'm really thankful and happy that you decided to do this podcast with me. It was kind of those things where I just tried it and reached out to you, and it's like, well, maybe, we'll see what happens.
Hey man, dude, I'm a huge fan of the planner, man. I think it's awesome.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. That makes me really happy. We'll definitely jump into that. I wanted to get you on this podcast because after seeing, obviously, just to give the people who are watching this podcast or listening, Joseph was one of my first pre-orders, and I really, it kind of set me on a path where I was like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. I really gave me the confidence to keep going with it. So I really appreciate that, man. And then what happened was I looked into your music to find out a little bit more about you. It's a little bit creepy, but it's the internet, right? We can do that nowadays.
No, that's cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
And so I saw that. I went to your website, checked out your music, and I became an instant fan, man. I really dig what you're doing out there.
Thanks.
If you, what I want to do is let's spend a little bit of time about your backstory. Where you started, where you're from, what your influences are. If you can go ahead and just talk about that for a bit, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So I originally grew up just outside of Ithaca, New York, and I had grown up in my parents weren't musicians, but it was a very musical household, constantly playing like blues and classic rock and folk music and just a wide range of different types of genres. So both my brother and myself kind of immersed ourselves in starting to sing, learning, instruments like piano and guitar, saxophone, trumpet, so we were just constantly doing that type of stuff. And as I got older, my brother started playing guitar and writing music. And, he's an older brother of mine. So I naturally kind of wanted to do everything he was doing. So,
oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I was I begged my parents to buy me a guitar on my 16th birthday, which they did. And, I wrote my first song within the first week that I had it, and just kind of started playing coffee shops and just around the upstate New York area. And my parents would drive me to my gigs, and
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, it was great. And then I went to college for music. Originally, I was going to go to Berkeley School of Music, and I kind of got scared to do it. They gave me a scholarship, and I was all excited about it. And then just being from a small town, I was like, man, Boston sounds like a huge leap. So I ended up going to school about an hour south in Mansfield, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And super glad I did, because I was studying classical music there. I wasn't a huge it wasn't a huge part of me and my musicianship, classical music, but I knew I wanted to learn it. And within 2 years, I flunked out of school. And I just couldn't grasp the concepts utilizing classical music. I wanted to learn music in the genres that I wanted to learn it in, so theory in relativity to, like popular music, like folk and rock and blues and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So luckily, the president of the university was a huge supporter of mine. She had me play like concerts in her home during dinner parties and whatnot. And
Wow.
she invited me back to the college and said, hey, we're going to start a new program for, you're going to study American folk music, and we're going to hire a new professor, and it's going to kind of be like, you're going to be like the test subject. And I was like, that's awesome. So
Wow.
that's kind of like what kicked me into gear. And I graduated with a degree in folk music from Mansfield University, the first one to do it.
Wow. So this was kind of like created around like you. I mean, you were kind of like the guinea pig for this.
Yeah, it was big because like I said, the president was like, took a liking to me.
Uh-huh.
And when she found out that I was kicked out of the music department, she wanted to bring me back in and give me another shot at something that, was, I guess she just believed in what I was doing, which was super cool.
Wow.
And I guess that's why we do things, is when people believe, it keeps us going,
Yeah, totally, man. Totally.
So I ended up doing that, and I graduated, and I ended up just kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I ended up moving down to Asbury Park, New Jersey, where Bruce Springsteen's from, and
Yep.
Bon Jovi, and like all these like rock artists that, to be honest with you, I never really listened to that much, but I was like, I want to be around rock and roll. And I did, and I continue to do folk music to this day, and I've traveled the country doing it, and it's awesome.
Man, okay. So like, wow, I have so many questions now. So of this program that you graduated from and helped basically build, have there been other artists that have gone after you, and kind of fulfilled that same class or program?
Well, unfortunately, when I graduated, the professor that they had hired to do the folk music program, he had unfortunately passed away about a year or two after I graduated.
Okay.
And it was hard on me because he was such a huge mentor in my life. He taught me, I mean, most music that I write and perform now are because of him. Yeah, I learned so much in that genre and about American music, not only folk, but you think about the things that derived from that,
Yeah.
He always said there would be no, Led Zeppelin if there was no Maybelle Carter from the Carter family,
Gotcha, man.
and like things like that. So he just tied everything together for me, So I know they tried to keep the program going. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if they continued on with somebody else and if there were more students. I know as soon as I graduated, I think they had like 6 other students that came into the program the year I graduated.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's still going on to this day. I'd have to find out.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of other schools should take notice of that. I mean, that is a really cool thing to be a part of, even if it's not in session anymore, but that's still like pretty groundbreaking,
Yeah, for sure. And there's schools out there that do teach that curriculum. I know there's some schools in like Tennessee and Kentucky that are teaching, roots music, bluegrass, folk, blues, things of that nature. So they're out there. They're definitely out there.
Yeah, and I really hear a lot of those influences in your music, man. It's very grassroots, bluesy, like you mentioned. Folk, obviously, there's a foundation there. And your voice is awesomely soulful and very full.
Thank you.
For lack of better term. But I really enjoyed listening to you. I also have some more questions. So you currently live in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and when did you move there?
I moved there in 2009.
Okay, so you've been there for a while.
Yeah. Now my wife and I, we bought a house just outside of Asbury Park.
Okay.
And it's super weird for me because we've lived here now for about 2 years. We're like literally just outside of it, but I was inside of it for so long, and like it was so weird not being like right there in the center of everything.
Yeah.
Such a huge music town. I mean, you talk about Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, New York City. Asbury Park is like in that group of cities that celebrate musicianship.
Yeah, and I think it's underserved as far as like on the national spotlight. I mean, obviously you mentioned there's a lot of great artists that came from there, but it's like when you talk about music towns, you know, Austin always comes up first, Nashville, LA, New York. I think I want to know more about Asbury Park. So the music scene is great. I mean, have you had good experience? What are the good experiences and the bad experiences you've had there being a solo acoustic artist there?
Well, I'll tell you one huge aspect of being in and around Asbury Park is the amount of musicians that are here and the amount of talent that comes with that. I mean, like I certainly don't know every single musician in town, but that's really because there's seriously like thousands.
Right.
I mean, people just gravitate to Asbury Park and even more over the course of the past 10 years or so, because back in the 80s, there were some major race riots in Asbury Park.
Ah, no kidding.
And it shut the town down, and it became very, for a lack of a better term, kind of dumpy. It became a very dumpy town.
Okay.
The music venues were closing down. The boardwalk was a scary place to be. And now it's like completely turned around, and you can say music literally saved the city.
Wow.
The musicians did not stop. And now you have places like the iconic Stone Pony, the Saint, new places like the rebuilt Asbury Lanes, bringing in huge acts, you know, like Willie Nelson, the Counting Crows. Like, we have acts coming into town all the time, especially in the summer. You know, and like you can go to a bar at any point and like randomly be sitting next to Bruce Springsteen, like I have myself.
Wow, that's crazy.
Everybody here's got a Bruce story. Everybody's got one.
That's kind of like Lemmy at the Rainbow in LA, man. He's always, or he used to be always there. You know, like you'd go there and you just see him.
Yeah, man, it's wild. And Bruce will literally just be riding his motorcycle there and like just be sitting at the Wonder Bar or like,
wow, you
know, in the back of the Stone Pony, and you know, it gets crowded after a while, and he's like, all right, time to go, and he jumps on his bike and heads home, you know.
That is awesome. So so is that kind of like Asbury Park and those clubs you mentioned, is that your main spot to play? I was looking at your schedule and it looks like you just played in that area this weekend. Is this kind of where you focus on, and then you do some traveling as well, right?
Yeah, I do. And I did a lot more back in the day. I have a 2-year-old now.
Oh, okay.
And so but at the same time, I'm still able to travel around it, you know, especially like in the Northeast. You know, I played a couple of shows in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago. I go back up to upstate New York quite a bit. I did a huge festival out in Massachusetts last fall.
Okay.
So I'm still traveling around quite a bit. Asbury is definitely, you know, my home base, but I try not to oversaturate myself as I used to, just because, you know, if I'm playing a show there, you know, a couple of times a week, it's like, how many people are going to come out and see me, you know, after every one of those shows? So I try to spread it out a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's definitely, I always feel at home there. One of the venues, it's called the Saint. The Saint's been open since the mid '90s, and just this small little bar with a stage. It's got the best sound in town, and it's I mean, you talk about the guy that owns the Saint. He had a place just like down the street from there before he opened up the Saint. They closed down, I think, because of rent control. Okay. But they closed down. But one of the last shows he had there was Jeff Buckley acoustic.
Oh my God, you're kidding me, dude! Wow, wow.
Yeah, man. Like I mean, and Jeff Buckley, from what I understand by the owner of the Saint, his name is Scott. Scott tells me Jeff loved Asbury Park, and he loved playing those small little gigs. And it was right after he recorded that live album he did. I forget the name of it. What was that venue he played at? But it was, you know, he was right. He died only soon after.
Wow. Wow.
So it's got a lot of history, man. And the Saint is just everybody's hometown spot.
Right.
And it's still going to this day, when everybody else is shutting their doors, you know, like you talk about like CBGB's and the Living Room in Brooklyn and places like that have just closed their dours. And Asbury seems to, for the most part, things stay open there, you know?
That's great. And I really like that, you know, how you mentioned music saved the town. I mean, that's such a amazing concept to think about, because if you keep people, give people a reason to keep going out there and to keep investing in their own city. I mean, entertainment is one of those things, besides sporting events. And that's a really cool concept that I think, I don't know if many cities can share that story, have that same story.
No, it's huge, man. It's huge. And a great thing about Asbury Park, too, is for the national acts that are national. I mean, like, not as big as like Bruce Springsteen, but national, like, going around, and they play in Philly and they play in New York, and they always, there's a date left open usually for Asbury Park.
Yeah.
Because it's the first market between Philly and New York that you can really hit up as a musician without oversaturating yourself in one area on tour.
Right.
So it's definitely the place to be.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I say that about Phoenix. I mean, we're kind of an island unto ourselves here. So bands who are coming through the Southwest to get to Vegas or get to LA or to go vice versa, we're kind of like a pit stop. You got to get gas somewhere, right?
Yep.
So Asbury Park has got to be a great city for that, man. So let's talk about you and your what you have going on. I wanted to talk about your album, Songs of Travel for the Vagabond. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So that came out pretty recently. Is that right?
It was actually it's been 2 years now.
2 years. Okay, 2 years.
Yeah. Yep.
It's got some great stuff on it. I was actually considering like downloading one of your songs and running into my drum studio and maybe throwing some drums on a couple of those tunes.
You wouldn't be the first to do that. It's so funny. I just quickly, I wanted to record an album that wasn't just strictly acoustic, but maybe had some layering on top. So you can hear in some of the songs where I have some like lead guitar on there, and I have some, I have some bass on there. I actually had a bass player who played with Frank Sinatra in Atlantic City in their heyday.
Oh, nice.
And so he came into the studio, and so usually when I record, it's like just me, because I'm super uncomfortable playing with other people, because I feel like I don't follow a certain rhythm all the time.
Okay.
And it's just so awkward for me, and I wish I was better than that, but that's like, it's just so weird for me to play in a full band. Not that I haven't, but I usually stick to like solo stuff, and but people are constantly coming up to me like, "Hey man, like, let's throw some drums in there. Let's throw," and I'm like, "Hey, let's try it," like, "Hey, why not?"
Yeah, I can see that, because I mean, your songs are great, and as a drummer for me, I can hear it. They translate well. If you ever wanted to do a full band, they translate well. You got great meters, so I think that's why you get a lot of people hitting you up, going, "Oh man, I want to jump on your music." So I don't think you got anything to worry about as far as your music translating to a full band.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, definitely, man. So you have done the band situation before, though, just kind of dabbled in it, tried it out, and you just decided to stay solo?
Yeah, no, I have. Every once in a while, I'll get a group of musicians together, and we'll do some full band shows. And years ago, 2006, I recorded an album in Montreal with a full band called Worn Out Joke.
Oh, okay.
And it was great. I had a blast doing it. But that was like, an in-studio band. I wasn't taking them on the road or anything. It was really just when I was recording in Montreal. Mm-hmm. And but that was so much fun, and I definitely want to do that again. And I'm writing music now that is more geared to a full band.
Okay.
So while I still play it solo, like as I'm writing it, I'm like, oh man, you know what? Like, what would sound good with this? And I'm just like thinking about that more now than I ever was before. Okay.
And why do you think that is? Do you think it's just something you want to try? You think maybe different or progression into your songwriting? What do you think that's due to?
To be honest, it's due to artists that I grew up listening to, modern artists that I grew up listening to that play in the same genre. And I'm talking about musicians like Ryan Adams.
Okay.
I think a lot about like the translation from folk to like just rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And it fits so well together. It really does. And so, I listen to a lot of that type of music. And if you listen to like the Ryan Adams, like modern day stuff, it's pure rock and roll, but he's still got that rootsy, folky tune to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a huge Ryan Adams fan. He's great.
Oh my goodness, he's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So if you do decide to go into more of like a live band situation, I'm guessing where you live, there's a lot of people to choose from.
Yes, there are. There definitely are.
Do you ever get a chance to do like songwriting sessions with singer-songwriters out there? Do you guys have like huddle sessions or anything like that? Have you done that kind of stuff?
I have done a little of that here and there. And that's another thing that, you know, when I saw your planner,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, that's one of the things that I thought would be, it would work. I could work towards that because I could set some goals to meet with certain people and to like, you know, just basically if I write it down, I can basically guarantee that I'm going to do it as long as I write it down and I put it on a date. And that's why when I saw your planner, I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. You know, I can hold myself accountable just by the sheets of a book, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I've been doing is like, I've been trying to get together with some people. Last night at the gig that I did in Asbury, I actually had a drummer and a hip hop artist come up with me.
Wow.
And we did a whole set, the three of us. It was awesome.
Wow, that's an awesome story to hear, man. I'm really glad that you know it's helped you like that. It's you know it's the same thing for me. I'm the same way, man. If I'm gonna do something, I have to write it down. I mean, you know, I got my phone and I got a million reminders on calendars and stuff, but for some reason, the act of like writing something down and being like, okay, I'm gonna draw like a little checkbox next to it, and then so I can check it off when I'm done doing it. You know,
dude, it's so true, man. It's so true, and I think that, you know, a lot of people can you know, touch with that. You know, it's there's something, we have all this technology in our hands at all times. How easy is it to ignore? It is actually a lot easier if you think about it. You know, with the amount of notifications that we receive on a daily basis on this little device in our pocket.
Oh yeah.
It's like it almost becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
But with this book, I literally carry this book with me since I've gotten it. I carry it everywhere I go.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
No, it's awesome. And I think that it, like I said, it has this magic of holding me accountable. And it's literally just writing it down and, you know, taking the time to actually think things out because of the book. Not just because like it literally makes me do it.
Right.
It's wild. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I found the same way. The reason why I like writing and doing these things and setting these goals and using the book is because it's quiet, you know. Yes. Like phones are noisy and they try to pull you in all kinds of directions, and I think the act of taking a little bit of time during the week and just writing things down, almost like a journaling, but you know, you're setting your scheduling and your goal tracking and stuff like that. It's just quiet and it's focused, and I really connect with what you're saying, man. It really makes me feel good about that. So
yeah, man. And my daughter literally had, I got out some crayons for her this morning, and I had her just like kind of coloring on a paper, and I got out the planner and I started like doing my weekly lyric. I usually do that at the end of the week.
Yeah.
So I did my weekly lyric, which another thing I love about the book is the fact that you give like ideas underneath that weekly lyric.
Yeah. I'm really happy you dig that, man. You know, it's like one of those things where if you are stumped that day, maybe here's a suggestion. You know, you don't have to do it, but like maybe here's something that might spark something for you. You know?
No, man, it's awesome. I think the first week, I think it said something about cigarettes in an ashtray. I forget exactly what it was, the idea that you put, but I remember looking at that before I even bought the planner. You know, you could see like they think it's like the first week or the first month you put on your website, and I checked it out and I was like, immediately thought about my grandfather.
Wow.
And you know, like, and I don't remember the lyric exactly. I'd have to take a look at it, but I wrote something about cigarettes in an ashtray. Wow. And in regards to my grandfather, and like just, you know, it's wild.
Wow, man, that is amazing. I'm speechless. I that's kind of what my hopes were to provide those lyric starters, is just to give you a little bit of inspiration. And you know, like what you interpreted is your version of it, and then someone else who may have the planner may interpret it a different way. You know, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that you're never going to get the same interpretation of a single idea. And you know, leave it up to someone like you who's just immensely creative and artistic to come up with something like that, you know, and hopefully it does that for other people too.
Yeah, man.
So I appreciate that, man, but let's talk about you.
All right.
So let's hear about you do your traveling. You do travel outside of your town. How often do you get out and play shows? And when you do, what gear do you take with you? To get a little bit nerdy about gear and stuff, what do you usually take with you when you do these shows?
Well, it always depends, of course, like on the show and like what type of show am I playing? Like, do I have to bring my full PA? Am I playing in like an established music venue where I don't have to worry about that? But a couple of things that I always bring, and some things that I've been a huge fan of lately, a brand LR bags for acoustic musicians.
Okay.
Is just awesome. So I just installed I've always used LR bag stuff, but I just installed the Anthem pickup in my Gibson guitar. And, so you got that blend between like the undersaddle pickup and the mic. And so that is just, I have a few acoustic guitars, but that's the guitar I bring on the road at all times, because it depends on if it's a listening room, I crank that mic side of things. If it's like a louder bar scenario, I'll do the piezo pickup because it just kind of comes out in the cut a little bit.
Yeah.
But another thing I bring with me is my Marshall acoustic amp. I have some like hearing issues in my left ear.
Okay.
So what I do is I actually use my acoustic amp as a monitor behind me to the left a little bit, just so I can get a little bit more guitar on stage, and the vocals kind of sit more in front of me on the stage monitors. So I do a lot of that with the amp. I've worked over the years to perfect the natural sound, like as if I'm sitting in a living room. And I'm playing for you. I want that to translate on the stage. So I tend to have gear that does that. Like I have some like great reverb pedals, and I've invested in some microphones that I bring with me. One of them being there's this guy Philip Graham in Portland, Oregon, that developed this microphone. It's called the Adwina, and his microphones have been used for years in the bluegrass scene when you're single micing, when you have like, banjo, bass, guitar,
right,
slide, they're all up there right around the microphone, and it's one, just single micing, and it just sounds like that living room sound, like they're right there. So things like that, man, the gear that is available to us nowadays is crazy, and you could just really, hone in that sound that you want.
Yeah. And you can do it. I mean, it's not expensive and it's easy to carry around. I totally agree with you on the equipment side thing, man.
Yeah, for sure. So I try to keep it as simple as possible, but at the same time, like, it's just me. So it's not easy to like cart around a crap ton of gear. But so the simplicity but also like just as much as I can do to make it sound as natural as possible, Yeah. I noticed too that some of the videos, do you do some of your own recording and video work for like, say, social media and stuff like that? How I have. I was for a while. I haven't done so much of that recently, but I was doing that. When I got married, we got a bunch of money during the wedding, and I was like, hey, I want to get a camera. So I went out and bought a Nikon camera, and I bought a Zoom H6 recording, portable recorder, and I just started kind of doing stuff like that here and there. And I actually started doing it more for other people as well, like for other musicians in town. I was like, hey, like, let's do a video. So,
oh, nice. Okay.
So I definitely love doing that. And it's a huge part of like, extracurricular things that you can do outside of just like writing and playing. It's like, what other creative aspect can I get into? So like, doing these videos for myself and other people, and like popping them into Final Cut and just doing, things like that. I love that.
Yeah. So, I'm a big advocate for that. Just, encouraging musicians to learn the tools learn video editing, learn recording. It seems like, recording ourselves as artists, a lot of us shy away from that because, either we're too intimidated by the technology or we just think, oh, that's not for me, but I think that the reality is it really is for you. Like getting a camera and learning, like you say, Final Cut and learning these video editing tools is super important with artists because you have the power to do it yourself and you can get yourself out there. So I really am excited that you've embraced that as well, and hopefully others out there will do that as well.
Yeah, no, it is important. Like you said, to like, you got to learn the tools of the trade. And it's always been like that. But now that we're living in 2018, we have all this technology that really, like you said, it's not expensive.
No, yeah.
You know, you can go out and you could literally record like an acoustic album. And you know, don't talk about like manufacturing of like CDs or vinyl or whatever, but just the recording aspect of it. Like you could literally go out there and buy just like a portable recorder and record an album, and most people are not going to know that it was recorded on a portable recorder. They're all going to think you went into a studio and did it.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the listening audience, like you said, man, you nailed it. They're not sitting there going, wow, I wonder if this is recorded in a multi-million-dollar studio. You know, it doesn't matter. Like if your songs are great, and it sounds good, that's all people care about, you know, and whether you do a solo thing in your bedroom or whether you go into a studio, if they like you, they're going to listen to it. You know?
Dude, think about that Bruce Springsteen, just to bring up Bruce Springsteen one more time.
Yeah.
Think about that album Nebraska that he did.
Oh.
And that was recorded on a 4-track Tascam recorder in his bedroom in a house in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Wow.
And, you know, like, of course they mastered it in a real studio and whatnot to get it ready for Columbia Records. But, I mean, that right there is just amazing. He did it with just that and 2 SM57 microphones.
Wow.
And that's it, you know, and they I think they layered some other stuff on there, you know, and added some like post-production reverb afterwards, but still like the rawness of that, people love that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, think about when you're at a concert and you're seeing a full band, and then all of a sudden the lead singer of that full band comes out with just an acoustic guitar and the crowd goes wild. You know, there's a reason, because they want that rawness, you know?
Yeah, that is a great point. You can capture, you're right, man. Like you can have a full band going, and then when you break it down to just an acoustic guitar or something like that, people almost love that more because you're breaking it down. And especially people who aren't musicians and aren't artists, you know, they gravitate towards that kind of stuff. And if you can translate that to your own recordings and release it yourself, upload it to iTunes yourself, which you can do, you know, you can do all that stuff. It's all fair game. So
can I point out something just for other bands, other singer-songwriters as when speaking about getting your music out there on Spotify, iTunes, and things like that. There is a new service available. Yeah. It's called Level.
Okay.
And I believe it was developed by Warner Music Group, but it's completely free, and you no longer have to pay a dime to get your music on these services, and they still pay pretty much the same as if you did it through like CD Baby or some sort of digital aggregator that, you know, that you're paying for.
Right.
Level is like brand new, and I just uploaded my music. I took my music off of Spotify, iTunes, things like that, because when my album came out, I wanted to kind of test those waters a little bit. Okay, how many people can I drive to my website rather than to Spotify or, you know, whatever. So and it worked well for me. But now that it's been out a couple of years, so I was like, all right, let me throw it back up on there. I used Level, man, completely free, super easy to use. I believe it's just level.com, I believe, but you can look it up on Google. Just type in Level. It's by Warner Music Group, and it's great. I mean, just things like that like you can save money, like cutting corners there. Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I will definitely look at that. I mean, I'm all about finding resources that are affordable for musicians to use, because, you know, obviously we're not making millions of dollars here. Anything that helps musicians get their music out and is affordable or free, even free, that's even better. Then it just kind of lessens the reason for you to make an excuse as why to do it, you know?
Exactly.
So, well, cool, man. I will definitely check that out and include that in the notes. Let me just talk a little bit about what are your plans like for the next couple years? Like, what kind of goals do you have set for yourself and your music? Where do you see yourself going here in the next couple of years?
Well, to be honest with you, now that I am doing what I'm doing, which I absolutely love, I have a full-time day job. Yeah. Which I'm very lucky to be doing the job that I do. I work with software. Cool. But outside of that, you know, I'm lucky enough to be at least established enough to play like some great shows throughout the year, opening up for some like bigger acts, and the ability to, I've made connections with, studio engineers and producers that, I'm able to go into the studio for very cheap, and put out some good, some good content that sounds really good. My plan is to probably within the next 6 months book the studio time for my next album. Probably bring in a full band, maybe not for the whole thing, but at least a majority of the songs. Get it out there, do a couple of years of just like kind of doing these like weekend warrior tours where like if I fly out somewhere and do, a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night type of thing in one area, and then the next weekend do another area. Just continue to do that. And my goals have changed a little bit because when I was younger, it was like, oh, I want to be famous, Yeah. Now I just want to just do music all the time as much as possible because my 2-year-old, she loves music. And I want her to grow up knowing that, you can do so much more than just your day job. You don't have to settle for just doing like, what society tells you is the right thing to do. Yep. There's so much more you can do. And she doesn't have to do music, but it's just important for her to know in my eyes that, here I am, like I can work to pay the bills, but I can also go out there and do some pretty cool stuff. Last year I performed at the Fresh Grass Festival in Massachusetts with like Brandy Carlisle and Del McCoury and like some of my heroes in like the roots and bluegrass market. And it was just like 10,000 people at this festival. And I'm not, like I come back from that, it's funny, people are like, oh man, like that was your big break. And I'm like, no, it was just a cool thing, It was just a cool gig. If I could continue to get on board with gigs like that and play festivals and have like, magazines like No Depression writing articles about me and just like making me feel good to keep the drive going. That's really like, just, I could live like that, man, honestly.
Yeah, man, those are such great points. Let's go back to, showing the example of your daughter that she's growing up and will be able to do those things. I mean, I can completely relate to you. I have a 10-year-old girl, and they're growing up in this generation where they will have the opportunities and the tools to literally go into things that they want to outside of a regular work, they just have so many tools available to do something that they'd love to do that, I don't think we had when we were kids. It's so exciting for them. I'm so excited for like this younger generation to see what they do. And it's great that
you're amazing.
Yeah, it's great that you're giving your daughter an example to do that. To her, by the time they grow up, it's going to be normal. Right, yeah, if I want to start a podcast, I just start a podcast. If I want to if I want my own YouTube channel, I'm just going to do it. It's like they're not even going to think about it, So that's awesome. Very cool. Wow. Well, I had like a million questions and everything, but I definitely wanted to mention that because I can relate to you as a father as well.
Yeah, dude, it's super important for us, every parent like thinks about like, okay, am I doing this whole, parenting thing right?
Yeah.
It's really all about, for me, inspiring her to know that, like you said, she can do whatever the hell she wants to do.
Yeah.
And they tell you that. They tell every child that growing up. We were told that growing up. My parents were told that growing up. But like you said, the tools are there to actually do that now. Yeah. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and there's no middleman. There's nobody telling you, oh no, you can't do a YouTube channel, or you can't put your music out there, or you can't.
Exactly.
There's nobody telling you to do that. Well, maybe there are, but literally it's on you to kind of achieve the goal that you set for yourself and using the tools of today. So yeah, that is a great point there. So let me ask you this. You're very seasoned. You've been doing this for a while. When you play shows, is it all original music now, or do you throw in some covers, or do you do shows where you just do covers? What's your makeup of your typical show?
most of it is original. You know, I have a lot of songs under my belt now, and I do throw in a cover here and there.
Yeah.
I did a 3-hour show last night where it was I probably did like 2 covers.
Wow. Wow.
And luckily, in where I'm at, I can, you know, there's not a whole lot of places that make this available to musicians, original musicians, but, you know, being able to get paid well to do a 3-hour bar gig, most bars are going to be like, no, you got to do covers, do the top 40. I want people, you know, I want them up dancing and singing with you.
Yep.
Here in Asbury Park, dude, it's like, no, do your originals. Like, they want you to do the originals, so
wow.
we do, you know, like it, and they pay us for it. That, like, you know, if I went to you know, some bar, like, you know, in upstate New York, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I just want to do this bar gig for money, and they're like, all right, it's gonna be 3 hours, you got to do mostly covers, you know, it's like, you know, yeah, the money's there, but am I real? That's a job. That's
yeah.
like, that's like waking up and like going to a job that you don't want to go to, you know? Like,
right. So, yeah, I think like in Phoenix, man, that's such a contrast to like where I live, in that you're lucky if you're able to get, you know, if you are a working musician here, when you're playing these 3-hour gigs, which I know I have a lot of friends that do that, the majority of their set list is going to be cover songs. And, you know, and that's okay, because like you can actually do that full time.
Yeah,
you know,
totally. Yeah.
Which is awesome if you can do that, and then you supplement with some of your originals in there. But man, just thinking about how that is in New Jersey, where they let you do a gig that long of a gig, and it can be, you know, 90% originals. Wow.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I'm super lucky to have that. And like I said, like, nothing against cover bands, because you, like you said, I know cover bands that are literally making a killing doing that full time, and just like working 3 nights a week. Yeah. You know, and it's like, you know, like, more power to you. To be honest with me, I never felt super comfortable playing cover songs, not because I thought I was like better than that. It's because I literally don't relate to that. I if I'm not doing music that I created, I feel very uncomfortable. You know, it's just me. It's just not, it's not comfortable for me. I just rather do things that I wrote and that I've practiced and know, like, you know, very well, and just go out there and also, you know, even at a bar where it's loud and no one's paying attention, you got that one person that comes up to you after the gig that says, wow, you know, like, what was that song you did, that lyric that said blah, blah, blah? And it's like, wow, you were listening. And there's always that one person, you know? So it's like, man, like, you know, you impact somebody like that. It's huge.
Yeah. All it takes is one person in the crowd to come up to you after you've played a gig, and you feel like no one's listening to you, and they're like, oh man, I really dug that song you played. Is that yours? And you're like, yeah. Like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, man. Just like you said, that one person out of, you know, 300 people in the bar that day, it's like, you know, nobody else matters.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great way to put it. I could honestly talk about this stuff all day, man. And this is really exciting, but I kind of wanted to ask you one more thing. What kind of advice do you have, you know, as someone who has been doing this for a while, you've learned the ropes, you're in an amazing city. What advice do you have for someone who may be thinking about moving cities or doing more music to kind of, you know, whether they want to do it full time at some point? What would you suggest they focus on as whatever goals, or what advice do you have for someone like that who wants to make that jump?
Oh man, well, I'm just a huge believer in whatever makes you feel good as a person. That's what you should be doing. And we live in a climate today where, you know, there's a lot to be concerned about. And I think that, you know, some people will drown that out in drinking or drugs, or they'll drown it out in their day job that they're maybe not necessarily super happy in, but they're doing it because maybe they're making some good money, and you know, they're just like going home every day and just like waiting for the next day to come. And my whole thing is, with music especially, or in the arts in general, like just the creativity, if you're not in it to not only inspire others, but to inspire yourself, and to feel good. If you're not doing it for that, then I just don't see it lasting for you. And so I guess my advice would be to just make sure that you find some way to keep that going. It's huge, and our world needs it. Like more than ever today, our world needs us to be creative and to continue to inspire, society, the youth, just people in general, man. It's so important. You think about like the 60s and the 70s and the movements going on then. Where we're at now is probably bigger than that. And we can't give up. So that is, you have to keep that in the back of your mind when you're doing it. And as long as you do, I think that you will succeed, and people will look up to you, and you'll inspire others, you'll inspire yourself, and you'll just keep going. And it won't just be a day-to-day process of like feeling like a robot anymore. Like feel like a person and do something different every day. The same thing over and over again is just nobody's cup of tea,
Yep. That's great advice, man. Flood the planet with art and creativity. I cannot agree with you more on that. And for someone who is thinking about, or is on the fence about, man, should I do an album? Should I try and get more gigs? Should I try and make an album, or should I even make a video to upload? I would agree with you, and I would say yes, do it.
Yes to all of those. Yes.
To do it all. Nobody's gonna stop you, and it's just a great thing to do. So I really appreciate that, brother. That's really good
man.
advice.
We all need you to continue to do it. Keep creating, keep being passionate about something, whatever that you're doing. You have a choice every day to wake up and do something. You have a choice to go to work. You have a choice to do the job that you're doing. You have a choice to write the song that you're writing. Make the choices and then stick to them, and find that inspiration that just keeps you breathing and keeps you going, because it's letting us all breathe together. So it's huge.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Like I said, I could talk to you all day. This has been awesome and a really eye-opener for me, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I'm a huge fan of what you've been doing, man. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. For everybody out there listening, this is Joseph. Go check out his website. It's www.josephaltonmiller.com. That's ALTON Miller.com. And check out his music, his videos. He's a very active, very seasoned in the music scene. Obviously, he's playing in one of the greatest cities for music that is very underrated. So please go and visit him. I'll have the website on this blog when you check it out. Joseph, hang on the line with me for a little bit here. I'm going to sign off with everybody. And appreciate you guys checking out this podcast. Please check out Joseph and his music. He's very talented, amazing singer-songwriter. Hit him up if you got questions. And thank you very much, man. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, man. Hey, go out and check out the Songwriter's Planner and the lyric book, because it is amazing. It's going to help you out big time. So
awesome, brother. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Peace.
You'd say stay here and right to where I know. You put yourself in a picture frame, baby, and watch your reality TV shows, yeah.